Welcome everyone to the September Entuity Tech Talk. For those of you who are new to Entuity Tech Talks, these sessions are designed specifically for customers as well as technical members of our authorized partner community. Today we are going to look at custom reports built using the report builder and how to use them to your advantage. I did want to mention too that previous Tech Talk videos are available on demand on the Entuity Learning Center, located on the resources page at entuity.com, as well as on the Entuity YouTube Center. They are a good resource for learning more about the product. I'm John Diamond, and I'm a Principal Solutions Architect at Entuity. And also with me today is my colleague Larry Balon, who's a Field Systems Engineer, and we will be your hosts for the next 20 or 30 minutes or so. Today, we're talking specifically about the Entuity 15.5 product, and if you're not currently running 15.5, you may be missing out on some new features designed to make network management more productive. In fact, if you look at the screen at the moment, you're going to see a brief high-level overview of what was introduced at the most recent two releases. This is an ever-evolving product. I'm going to just introduce you briefly to the concept of the report builder. Within Entuity, we have well over 140 pre-packaged reports that are already designed. They can be adjusted in various ways, but they're pre-designed and ready to use. In addition to that, we have the report builder, and that's the tool that can be used to address specific custom requirements that go beyond the pre-packaged set of pre-templated reports. That's the tool that Larry is about to use to demonstrate how to address a problem that he was challenged to solve by one of our customers. And it's important to note, and Larry's going to be able to show you up front, where the link to the tutorial videos that are packaged with the product are located. There are two videos. One of them covers the basic forms of reporting. There are 4 basic template styles that we provide to produce straightforward renderings of data in various different ways. And then there's another video that describes an additional template which allows you to combine multiple sub-reports into one large, sophisticated top-level report, and that's called the consolidated report. So if Larry, at this point, if you would like to take over and show us those links to the video.
Thanks, JD. And let me go to the Entuity web UI that I have here. So what I'm going to be demonstrating today is the creation of a report that will report on certain attributes within an F5 load balancer. So first of all, a little background on the software and support for load balancers. So you can see here on the left side, I've created a specific view that contains 2 F5 load balancers. The software, we have an optional module that can be enabled when you run the configure utility that will enable enhanced statistics collection for load balancers. It's called the load balancer module, and it is designed to collect enhanced metrics for various vendors' load balancers. We're going to focus on F5 for the reporting for 2 reasons. One, this report that I'm going to be demonstrating today came at the request of an Entuity customer, and F5 has the largest market share in load balancers. We have many Entuity customers that utilize Entuity for monitoring F5 load balancers. The module, although optional, is actually part of Entuity's standard software. It's just turned on if you have load balancers to monitor, and it's done through the configuration utility through the use of a checkbox. So what I have here is our Explorer utility. We're looking at the device level of an F5 load balancer, showing some of the key metrics that we collect and some of the ports. This is the summary tab. Most of the interesting information that we collect on F5 load balancers is located in this advanced tab. So I'm going to click that now and bring up the advanced tab. and I'll explain a little bit about how the data is organized. So there are three broad categories of data that we collect on devices, and the data that we collect on devices is dependent on the device type, the vendor, and model. But there's three categories. The first category is an attribute. In this case, I'm looking at the device. So the attributes I'm looking at are things like the device's name, the manufacturer, the model, pretty much information that's fairly static and not going to change that often. The next category of information that we collect are called stream attributes. For those of you, the more familiar term is time series information. That's things like CPU utilization, memory utilization, SNMP response time, device uptime, and so forth. And then there's a third category of information, which we call associations. And we make those associations within our database. Things like IP addresses that are associated with the device, specific associated data with the F5 load balancer is things like local pool information, real server information, virtual server information, and virtual services information. All of these contain hyperlinks that drill down to gather even more or provide even more detailed information. So if I click on the virtual services link, for example, this is going to bring up a page with tabular data that shows things like current sessions, failed session rates. In this particular one, this particular virtual service is unavailable, so there are no statistics available for that. But there are also some associated information. So one of the associations we make with a virtual service is, well, it's associated with a load balancer device. It has to reside on a load balancer device. So that's part of the associated information. There's local pool information, there's real server information. The particular report that we're going to generate today, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run the report first that I've already created, and then we'll go and recreate it, is a virtual services report. So you can see I've already made this part of the repository. I'm going to report on all my objects, all my load balancer devices, and all my virtual services. When I run this, it's a tabular inventory style report that contains the load balancer IP address, the service name, the virtual service IP address, the real server name, and then the local pool. So I'm going to go back to the repository, and I'm actually going to delete this report. I'm going to start from scratch. So we use the concept of a Dropbox. So I'm going to go back to the Explorer menu, and we're going to create the report. So the first thing we need to find a virtual service. So I'll do that. I'll open up the Dropbox, and I'm simply going to drag this virtual service into the Dropbox. Now to create the report, I click the report builder icon. And again, I'm going to stop here for a moment. As JD said, there's a scroll window here. There's several different reports that you can create: time series chart, inventory table, a chart, multi-chart and table report that allows you to put static attributes as well as time series information in the same report, a time series table, and then there's a composite report that allows you to build several sub-reports. Again, there are tutorial videos. There's a hyperlink right from the report builder page that allows you to bring up hyperlinks to the actual videos. This report builder tutorial link is also available through the Entuity help menu as well. So let's get on with the task of creating the report. This is going to be an inventory table report. So I'm going to select that from my template. The report builder assigns a default name, which is the type of report and the current server date and time. I'm going to change the title to F5 Virtual Services Report. And then you can see here that there are no column headings. If I were to select device attributes, they'd be automatically populated. But in this case, the report builder doesn't know what attributes or items from the virtual service I need to put in the report. So it's giving me a blank template to work with. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click the Add Column button a number of times. We'll add 4 columns to start. and then I'm simply going to click the value here, and I'm going to click the Find Attributes button. So there are 4 different types of information here: attributes, stream attributes, associated attributes, and associated stream attributes. We're primarily going to be utilizing attributes to report on. So 2 of the attributes that I need are right in this attribute pull-down menu, and that is the service name and the IP address of the virtual service. I'll click OK. Those are now placed into the selection column here, so I can actually select them for the report. So I'll select the service name, click OK. That is now in column 1. I'll select the second column, which is the IP address, and that's now in column 2. There's other information that I need to put into the report, and I'll bring up this object details. So one of those is the load balancer device, the real server, and the local pool. And these are shown as associated objects. So I'll go back to my attribute selector, and this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the object, and I'm going to look through the associated attributes. So I'm going to select the load balancer pulled IP address. You could select the device name as well. Really, whatever you need to report on that are requirements of your specific operation. I'm just going to select the pulled IP address. I'll select that. I'll place it into the column, and I'm just going to shorten the column heading to load balancer IP address. I'll come in, and again, I'm going to use the Find Attributes button and look at my associated attributes, and you can see that the real server IP address and name are here. We're only going to select the name for this report. I click OK, and again, I highlight once by single-clicking, click OK, and that's placed in the column heading. And again, I'm going to shorten that column heading. The last column that we need to put in is the local pool information. And although that shows up in the object details here, the load balancer local pool, it does not show up when I go and select my attributes. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do a little bit of Stormworks. And Stormworks is a statement language that we use to access objects within our database. So I need to create a new attribute, and you can see there's no button for it here. I'm going to cancel out of this. So I have to go, there's an advanced options checkbox in the report template. I'm going to click that, and now when I select the value, we have a new button here that's labeled Define Attribute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a description for this, which is local pool, and then I have to put an expression in here. Now, I've written an application note that was given to the customer at the time this report was generated, and this application note will be made available after today's session. So this is just a bit of Stormworks statement language that I'm going to put in there that allows me to pull out the load balancer local pool name. I'm going to copy that and paste it into the expression field, and I'll click OK, and now I have this as an attribute. I click OK again, and now that local pool information is there. While it may seem a little bit complex, the flexibility of the Stormworks statement language allows our customers to create reports. Again, it may sometimes involve our support organization, but it does not involve any type of professional services. So let's do a test run on the report, and one of the things I like about our report builder interface is there's a preview button that allows the user, in this case myself, to keep testing the report until I get it right. So I'll preview the report. I'll bring this up, and I'll magnify this a bit. So I have my service name, I've got my IP address, my load balancer IP address, my real server name, and my local pool. So all the information is there. However, I'm reporting only on a single virtual service. So what I need to do is I need to ignore the selection. Because this is a virtual service, I'm going to select all the objects from my Entuity server, and then I'm going to select a specific object type that I'm reporting on. And this will just allow me to filter on virtual services. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the include objects of type. I'm going to use that pull down. There's some high-level object types here like devices, ping-only devices, routers, switches, and so forth. But that's not what I'm looking for. If I click the other types, it brings up a whole pop-up box of selectable reportable types. And the reportable type I'm looking for is the virtual service. I'll select that. I'll click OK. I'll preview the report again. And now it's a 3-page report. It has the information I want in here. It's got the service name, the IP address, the load balancer IP address, real server name, and local pool. And while I like this information, what I want to do is I want to sort by my load balancer IP address as my primary sort criteria. And as a secondary sort, I want to do that on the service name, but I want the load balancer IP address in the first column. And that's fairly simple to do. I'll go back to my reporting template. I find my load balancer IP address, and I bring that to column 1. I click on the sort criteria. I want that in ascending order as my primary sort criteria. And then the secondary sort criteria is going to be the service name in alphabetical order, in ascending order, and that's my secondary sort criteria. Again, I'm going to quickly preview the report. And again, you can see here, I've got now the sort is different. It's by the load balancer IP address. It's by the service name, and then the associated information for the IP address, the real server, and the local pool. Once I'm done with that, there's a publish button that will publish the report so that it can be used going forward. I'll publish that report. And again, when you're using the report builder interface, I'll go to the main reports repository here. All of the reports that you create with the report builder interface will be stored in the user-defined reports folder. I now have the ability to edit this. I can run it through the scheduler, or I can run it on demand. And if I bring up the template, you'll see that the report builder has placed some controls into the report. So I can select a view. If I wanted to just report on a single load balancer and a single virtual service, I can do that. Or, for example, if I just select this one load balancer and report on it, that information is there. Go back to the repository. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to JD.
Well, thank you very much, Larry, and I think that demonstrates how quickly such a report can be put together at a moment's notice. Jay, while we've been talking, have there been any questions coming in that we can look at?
Yes, there have. Here's the first one. I have several servers operating at a multi-server configuration. Do I have to configure reports on each server separately?
Okay. If you've got a multi-server configuration, what you'll have is a consolidation server, which is linked to multiple remote servers. That consolidation server may be managing devices, or it may simply be there to offer a user interface to the users. The users would all log directly into the consolidation server rather than logging into each of the remote servers. And it is able to provide information gathered from all of the remote servers. And that applies equally to the user interface, such as the Explorer, but also to the reporting system, including those that you build using the report builder. It does it automatically. You don't have to accommodate it. And that means that, for example, in this situation, if you had multiple Entuity servers monitoring an environment where you had load balancers being managed by different remote servers, this report would just gather them all together into the same report. You don't have to do any extra work, it just does it. What it also means is that the report only has to exist on the consolidation server. It doesn't need to be installed onto the individual remote servers. So the simple answer is no, you don't need to distribute and install that report on all of the other servers. You can simply leave it on the consolidation server and run it there. Okay, anything else, Jay?
Yes. Specifically, where do I alter the configuration to enable the collection of these F5 metrics?
When you run the configure utility, which is when you're doing an initial installation, you run a utility called install. That installs, copies the files onto your server. Then it offers the ability to run configure. You can do that just by hitting the run configure button. Or at a later date, you can come back and at the command line, you can run the configure utility, which is in the install subdirectory of the main Entuity directory. That utility offers you a choice of which modules to enable. Load balancer support is one of those modules. It's just a checkbox in the configure utility. You'll need to take the server down, the Entuity service down, rerun configure. You don't need to reinstall. You rerun configure and just check the box on load balancer to make sure that you've got that support enabled. Once configure is finished, you just bring the server back up again.
Great. So we have another one here. Can we pull out the thresholds defined for such a report, like a IPSLA echo report?
Okay. In fact, if necessary, Larry could actually demonstrate generating an IPSLA report, but let me just say that the thresholds themselves are held within the Stormworks kernel and are associated with the objects that they apply to. So in this case, each IPSLA operation object would have a number of thresholds associated with it. You can add attributes that reference those thresholds and pull them back and obtain them using Stormworks. There's a get threshold, that's get underscore threshold function. Probably the best thing is that if you need to do that, then you can ask our support team. But fundamentally it means that that threshold value would be able to be placed into a table so that you could list it along with any other attributes that you wanted to list on that device. Larry, did you want to just quickly show how you might put an IPSLA report together?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things we can do. Here we go. All right. So what I have here, and let me show you how I got there, just so we can get there. If I go to the device summary tab, one of the associations with a router device would be IPSLA tests. So that's in the associations under, in this case, this is monitored IPSLA tests. So these are tests we've discovered. There's a DNS test running here. I can bring that in the Dropbox, and I can take open up my Dropbox and just place this particular metric in there, and I can simply show this on a chart, and this will give me my completion time for my DNS. We can generate tabular reports by going back and erasing this and going back to the actual test and dragging that in here, and we could generate a tabular report on that. Again, by going into the report utility, going into the inventory table report, adding a few columns here, I can go find my attributes. So this is a DNS test. What I can do is I can assign the name to it. I'll put that in the report. And then on my stream attributes, I can put my completion time. And then, it's obviously one of the associations is this is a IPSLA test, but it's running on a Cisco router. So, I might want to put in the report, well, what device is that running on? So again, I'm going to find the attribute. This is an associated attribute because the test is running on a device and the device is considered an associated attribute. I can find the device name. I'll click here, and again, I'll put that in there, and I'll just clean up the column heading. And I can preview this, and that'll give me the test name, the completion time, and the device name. And then again, if I want to report on all my all my IPSLA tests, I can go to other types, scroll down to the letter I, and look for the IPSLA-based polar. And when I preview that, that will list all of the tests that are running on all of the devices. And you can see that. Let me just expand this a little bit. The test name, the completion time, and you can see there's several different devices that it's running on.
Great. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Larry. Okay. Jay, anything else?
We do have one more. Do you have an example of a CUCM report?
We have a 2 or 3 pre-packaged CUCM reports. In fact, Larry, if you want to go up onto the demo server and look at the pre-packaged reports, we can show you those, and then we can also say that the whole concept of building reports using the report builder applies equally to CUCM. That's the call manager, Cisco call manager applications, and any metric that we're gathering within it. It's just another type of information that is modeled within the Entuity database. So here, Larry, do you want to just tell us what you've got?
Yeah, this is if I go back to the report repository, there's a CUCM inventory report that will provide me with inventory information on the CUCM.
Right, so if you've got one or more CUCMs, it's going to list them all there with their top-level information. Okay,
Yeah,
we've only got one online here.
Correct. And we also have the ability to bring up a phone directory that'll list the users, their extensions, the IP address, and the MAC address of the switch they're connected to, and which CUCM they're associated with.
Right. Actually, rather than the switch they're connected to, it's the IP address and MAC address of the phone itself. And it's also listing the actual call manager that they're associated with. Yeah. If you've got multiple call managers, then that will be a consolidated report bringing information in from all of the call managers that are within the view that you are currently selecting. And there's one more, isn't there?
And there's one that's for IP phone lookup.
That's it. So that's just a variant of what you've just seen, but it allows you to put in the extension number, and it will then look up and tell you about that specific phone and give you information about that one. And you'd have to be looking up a valid phone extension, of course.
Right, exactly.
But going back to what I said originally, if you were to just drag the UCM application or one of its metrics or multiple of its metrics into the Dropbox, you can start reporting on it, just like Larry showed you with the F5. Okay, Jay, anything else to finish off today?
No, I think that's it. That's all the questions we have.
Great. Okay, well, thank you very much. What I would say is that the techtalks@entuity.com email address is specifically provided so that you can send suggestions to us. If you've got an idea of a topic related to Entuity product that you feel we should focus a tech talk on in the future, then please send it to us. We would love to hear from you. Before we sign off, I wanted to let you know of our upcoming calendar of events. If you're planning on attending IP Expo in London next week on October the 7th and 8th, we're exhibiting. Please stop by and meet the Entuity team. We'll be at stand R13. Also, I'll be presenting at the show on the 7th, and the title of my presentation will be Future-Proofing Your Network Management. For those who are also BMC customers, Entuity will be on hand at many of the BMC days around the world, and we are also participating in the Dell Solutions Tour in Europe. For specific dates, visit our website at entuity.com and go to the event page. And lastly, I did want to remind you that we have new on-demand training videos available, and they've been developed by our training team in London, and they're located on the Entuity Learning Center. They're helpful for new members of your IT staff, or they can be used as a refresher class on the product. To wrap up, we will be sending you a video link to today's presentation for your use. If you have any questions on custom reports or any other topic, be sure to contact your Entuity Field Systems Engineer or send us an email. And finally, we hope to see you on November the 4th for our next Tech Talk. And the topic for that will be the new RESTful API that was introduced in 15.5. Thank you all for attending.